Rain tapped softly against the windows of the quiet coffee shop. The morning rush had faded, and now only a few scattered customers remained. A man in a gray suit sat alone at the corner table, staring into a cold cup of coffee, his eyes hollow and tired. He hadn't smiled in weeks. That's when a tiny, trembling voice interrupted the silence. "Can I sit here?" He looked up, and saw her. A small girl, no more than 7, pale and fragile, with thinning hair hidden under a pink beanie and deep, tired eyes. She clutched a worn-out teddy bear to her chest. He blinked. This child didn't belong in a coffee shop alone. But fate had just pulled 2 broken souls into the same orbit. Scene 1, the meeting. Jonathan Blake hadn't planned to be there that morning. Once the most driven CEO in the city, running a billion-dollar tech company, he had lost the will to run anything when his wife, Evelyn, died suddenly 2 years ago. He still wore his wedding ring. Now he drifted through each day like a ghost in a tailored suit, clinging to guilt and grief like shackles. The world remembered him as a genius entrepreneur. But inside, he was just a man too broken to be saved. The girl who asked to sit at his table looked like a ghost herself. He cleared his throat, unsure how to respond. Sure. Yes. Of course. She climbed into the seat opposite him slowly, as if even that took effort. Jonathan tried not to stare, but something about her reminded him of Evelyn. Maybe it was the eyes. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Lila," she whispered. "I'm waiting for my mom. She's at the clinic across the street. I get tired. She lets me sit here sometimes." Jonathan nodded. He didn't ask more. But he noticed the bruises under her eyes. The way her sweater hung too loosely on her tiny frame. The cough she tried to hide. She reached into her little backpack and pulled out a crumpled sketch pad. "Do you like to draw?" he asked. She nodded. "Only happy things." Scene 2, a growing bond. Over the next week, Jonathan found himself returning to the coffee shop. Same table. Same time. Hoping to see her again. She always appeared around 10 a.m., and always with a tired smile. He learned that her mother, Maria, worked 2 jobs and brought Lila to the city every other day for treatments. Lila had leukemia. Advanced. But she didn't talk about it much. Instead, she talked about the stars, her dream of becoming an artist, and how she wanted to make a book of drawings for children who felt scared like her. Jonathan listened. He hadn't listened in a long time. Not to anyone. One day, she gave him a drawing. It showed a tall man with a sad face sitting beside a little girl with a teddy bear under a rainbow. "Is that me?" he asked, choked. She nodded. "You look sad all the time. So I gave you a rainbow." Scene 3, Maria's worries. Jonathan eventually met Maria. A woman in her 30s with kind eyes and a permanent crease of worry on her forehead. She apologized for Lila's boldness, but Jonathan reassured her. He said the girl had brought light to his life in a way he couldn't explain. Maria hesitated before revealing the truth. They were running out of money. The treatments were expensive. She had exhausted all options. The doctors weren't hopeful. Jonathan felt something rise in him, something he hadn't felt in years: purpose. He offered to help. Money was no issue. He owned jets, estates, software patents. But Maria was proud. She declined. "This isn't charity," he said. "It's for me too." Scene 4, the turning point. Lila's condition worsened one morning. She collapsed in the coffee shop before her mother arrived. Jonathan rushed her to the hospital himself, heart pounding. He stayed the whole night. When the doctors finally stabilized her, Jonathan sat by her bed, holding her hand. He remembered holding Evelyn's hand in her final moments. But Lila still had time. She still had a chance. That night, he called a specialist team in Switzerland. Booked everything. He told Maria he would fly them both out and cover all costs. Still, she hesitated. But Lila looked at her mother and said, "Mama, he's not sad anymore when I'm around. Maybe this is how we help him too." Maria nodded through tears. Scene 5, The Journey and Recovery. The next month was a whirlwind. Treatments. Travels. Hope and setbacks. But Jonathan stayed. He made sure they had the best of everything. And slowly, Lila began to smile again. Her hair started growing back. Her eyes regained color. Jonathan, too, began healing. He found himself waking up excited for the day. Found himself sketching with her, walking with her, even laughing again. She had given him more than a reason to live, she had given him back life itself. Final scene, 1 year later. A year passed. The coffee shop still stood. But now, it was filled with more color. Lila had finished her book of drawings, Rainbows for the Sad Days. Jonathan helped publish it. All proceeds went to support other children like her. Maria worked at Jonathan's new nonprofit foundation, named after Evelyn and dedicated to helping single mothers with sick children. And as for Jonathan, he sat at the same corner table, coffee in hand, when a familiar little voice called out behind him. "Can I sit here?" He turned, and there she was. No beanie. No shadows under her eyes. Just sunshine and joy. He smiled, the kind of smile he thought he'd never smile again. "Of course, kiddo. Always." Last message. Sometimes, the universe brings two broken souls together not by accident, but because they have something to give each other that no one else can. A stranger's kindness. A child's innocent courage. And the healing power of simply saying, "Can I sit here?" Because sometimes, healing begins with just sharing a table.